to my sewing room. Today we have a wonderful show for you. Let me share with you lots of projects with really elegant machine embellishment. Now you don't have to make everything in order to have it embellished. These projects are embellished with machine stitching on store-bought items. This is a store-bought pillowcase. Let me just show you another beautiful project. On a purchased towel, look at this elegant way to embellish the purchased towel. Another elegant purchased pillowcase with gorgeous machine embellishment. And then vests are one of the absolute most wonderful ways of having fun with your sewing machine. Let me open this vest up and show you. It is just as pretty on the outside, on the inside as it is on the outside. Another absolutely magnificent vest, all embellished and just stitched and stitched with beautiful stitches from your sewing machine. I think that is so exciting. Another beautiful vest with all kinds of embellishment, including silk ribbon embroidery and applique and freestanding applique. And once again, let me open the vest so you can see how beautifully the lining is embellished also. Today I have my very dear friend Philip Pepper, who is going to share with you some of these unbelievable machine embellishing techniques. I am so pleased to have today as my guest, Philip Pepper. Philip is the creative sewing specialist with Pfaff American Sales, and I would go so far as to call him the creative sewing genius. Philip, welcome to the show.
Martha, thanks very much for having me on the program. And it's a privilege to share a few of my techniques with you and your viewers.
Oh, Philip, I just cannot wait for our viewers to see this beautiful table runner you've done. Philip, tell us about a few of the things that are on here.
Well, I actually made this for a friend of mine in Florida. And she picked out the colors, and we have silk ribbon embroidery flowers here by machine.
Oh, I like that.
Much easier, yes.
What about the little butterfly? Is that a butterfly?
It's dimensional leaves.
Okay,
now those we do on organdy, and then we simply trim them away. I've also done some wing needlework here, and normally I would weave the silk ribbon in and out of that, but I chose not to this time.
Oh, Philip, those little purple flowers are so sweet.
Aren't those neat? This is a card on our machine.
An embroidery card, then. All right.
And it sews it out all by itself. And here I did something a little different. You see at the bottom, the 3 lines. That's a triple needle with a basic straight stitch, so people don't have to have the real fancy machines to decorate these items.
What about, listen, Philip, I think this is one of the most beautiful scallops I've ever seen. Let me hold this up.
Now,
how did you do that?
Yeah, that's done with a basic wing needle. What people need to be careful about is the shanks of those needles are so much larger than a normal needle, so they've got to be sure it's all the way up in the machine before they use it.
Now that's the entredeau, the wing needle entredeau?
It's a built-in program. You simply select the stitch and sew it.
And what about that gorgeous scallop?
I'm going to be showing you the scallops later and how to get the perfect ones.
All right.
That's coming up.
Well, now, Philip, are you going to show us this beautiful silk ribbon flower first?
I'm going to do that.
I can't wait. Okay. All right.
You know, I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I took a class from the premier hand sewing teacher in the country, I think, which is Esther Randall.
Absolutely.
And I totally failed this class, so I just set about to learn to do it on the machine. So what I have here, first, our sewer is going to want to lower the feed dogs to their machine. And I've placed the fabric in an embroidery hoop, and I have clear monofilament thread in the needle. That's why you can't see it. We want to be sure to lower the presser foot, and the first thing we want to do is tack the silk ribbon down with a plain straight stitch, nothing fancy, to the fabric, and then trim that excess away. And you can see I've drawn off a length that I thought would be enough for the Lazy Daisy flower. Okay? Now, this is free motion, and some people are a little uncomfortable with this, but don't be. We're going to travel the distance that I want the petal to be, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to lower the needle into the fabric, as you see. And take your silk ribbon, pull it in front of the needle, and then behind it, and pull up a loop, as I've done here. Take one stitch out and move over, away from the silk ribbon, and tack it in place. At this point in the flower, we don't ever want to stitch into the ribbon. It ruins the effect. Now clear it out of the way and travel back to the beginning and pull your loop up loosely, not very tight, and tack it down in the center, and you have the first petal. Do you see how much like handwork it's beginning
It looks exactly like handwork. That's what. Now listen, go on and do some more of those.
I thought I would do the whole thing.
Oh, do the whole thing. That
because
sounds great.
when we're through, I'm going to show you how we clean this area up with a rosebud in the middle.
Oh, okay.
So let's show them a whole flower. Another petal. And I like to make these different lengths because in nature our flowers are different lengths. They're not all the petals are not all the same size.
Why, certainly not.
So one stitch out, one over. Let's get the ribbon
now
out of the way.
you're not catching the ribbon, is that right? Okay. Okay.
Tell you what,
good.
it just ruins the whole effect of it when you tack that ribbon down. There's another one. Remember to lower the needle into the fabric so that your ribbon is held in place for the loop. One over. Tack it down. You really will be amazed, and they'll be amazed, our sewers will be amazed at how easy this really is to learn to do. And I know everybody teaches this a little different, and this is just the way I like to teach it.
You know, that's one of the fun things about sewing is everybody has a different way, and I just believe all of them are wonderful, don't you?
Oh, you bet. I watch many of the other experts in the business and their techniques, and I mean, you just keep learning and learning and learning by watching other people.
That's what's so much fun about the whole education business,
isn't it? Oh, you bet.
It?
It's sharing. Another petal. I like, the looser you make these, the fuller the flower will look in the end. Okay, we bring it around, back over. See, I've made a smaller one here now to give it more dimension. Another one. And in a moment, when I make the center and the rosebuds, I'm going to change to a green to give the flower even more effect. And we're getting close. Make a long petal out here. And you notice I like them fairly close together.
Okay.
Some people make them further apart. Now, after I show you this flower in the center, I want to show you another easy method, too, to do it. I have another technique with a silk ribbon that's a little different. Some people might find easier if you don't mind. Okay, let's pull it up. Now, I've tacked the center down, and you notice how you can see quite a bit of that thread. We want to do what I call clean it up. So let's clip the loose end, take the green thread for the center, and we'll tack it down, just like we did before. Now this next part I want you to watch closely because it's so easy. If our sewer is working with a small area, for example a collar or just a placemat or whatever, she can spin her hook and the fabric and it wraps a silk ribbon around to form the rosebud. Can you stand it?
Oh my goodness, that's a bullion rosebud the easy way, isn't it?
You bet. She loosen up on it because if you pull this too tight, it's going to break the thread. So you take one stitch out and then tack it down and we have the rose bullion.
Oh my goodess. Now do that one more time.
I'm going to do this 3 times because I want them to see how it really cleans up the center area. And then I'm going to go to another easy method. Now don't wrap that more than 4 or 5 times or again, it simply pulls too tight.
Okay.
So one out and one over. I was tempted to show you on purpose what not to do, but I changed my mind, so we'll
do
just
one
show.
More of those, and then let's go on to that other one,
Let's
Philip. That is absolutely beautiful.
And it's just as pretty, but it's a little easier for people. There's not as much to remember about not stitching into the ribbon.
Okay.
Okay. You know, you must get letters all the time about how beautiful your sewing room is. This is just outstanding.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, Philip, if you can show us that other one real quickly.
You bet.
We're going to see another method for how to make a silk ribbon flower by machine with Philip Pepper's magic.
And let's keep everything set the same way. We still have our straight stitch program. And we place the fabric in the hook. And by the way, Martha, I'm using 4mm silk ribbon, and that would be their choice, any size they wanted. So again, we need to tack the silk ribbon down. And I want to remind our sewer to lower the presser bar lifter. So this time we sew right down the center, did you see?
On the ribbon?
On the ribbon.
Oh.
We go back to the beginning, and this time we just loop it right over what we sewed instead of forming the other style of loop.
Right on top of it?
Right on top. And all they have to remember
do that
here
again.
now,
That's fascinating.
right. Remember that they're stitching into the silk ribbon when they're traveling up and into it when they're traveling back, and pulling the loop and always re-looping in the center. And if you have a space like there that I don't like in there, I simply stitch another piece and loop back over. So you can see it's a different effect, but still a nice effect.
Well, Philip, that is fascinating. It really, really is. And now then, Philip has another technique, a wonderful scalloping technique to share with you for our home decorating project. I know we're all looking forward to seeing Philip's wonderful scalloping technique. What do you have to show us, Philip?
Well, Martha, there's a right way and a wrong way to do a scallop. Stabilizers are very important. Here I have a lightweight paper type stabilizer, and I also use a fabric liquid stabilizer on the fabric before I make the scallop. Machine embroidery weight thread is very important. Number 50 weight cotton or rayon is good to use. And also, people are asking me a lot of times why I don't have the whiskers around the scallops when I trim them and why they last so well. It's because I treat them with a fabric sealant before trimming them. There's no point to wait till after. And I want you to feel the edge of this scallop and feel the weight of it and the cord in there.
Really
That's
is
another
nice.
secret.
Really is nice.
It adds body and weight, and when it's laundered, it'll last longer. So what I'm going to do first is sew a plain one, uncorded, and unchanged in stitch length, and then I'm going to cord it and show you the difference and why it works so much better.
Good. Now those are built-in scallops. You just built into the sewing machine.
Now this one's pretty and it's okay, but I want you to see the difference when I do one thing. Let's trim that off.
Now, did you tell me you put a liquid stabilizer on there?
I did one of the spray stabilizers, and all your better sewing machine shops will have that product in stock. Now the trick here is let's cord this one, and I want you to see how raised it is and how much nicer it looks. To do that, we're going to take and pass number 5 pearl cotton through the needle bar thread guide. Can you see?
Yes, I can.
And then we're going to pull it under the presser foot as I'm doing now. Whoops. Let's get it back in there. It's under the foot, and I want them to be aware it's not through the eye of the needle. It's only under the foot. Now, on most machines, the stitch density is set a little longer for a scallop than we want it. So notice that I changed it to a more dense satin stitch for this setting. And the thread, you see the pearl cotton is flopping around and you think, well, it's never going to stay under there. But trust me, it will. And you'll see a major difference as this comes out the back of the machine.
It is jumping around there, and I was thinking, oh my.
But it will stay, I guarantee you.
And you're not holding it taut or anything, are you?
No, just up to the machine. Now, look at the difference in those two scallops by just changing the density and cording it from the top.
That is really beautiful. Can I feel it, too?
Yes.
You know what? There really is a difference, Philip.
This is the way you will see them if it's used as an
show us how that trimming trick now.
Yes. What I want them to know is that when they treat this with a fabric sealant, it should be done from the wrong side and on the outermost edge very lightly, as I'm doing here. Don't get too heavy because these products, some of them, will dull the color of the thread. It won't change. It won't make it bleed or anything, but it will dull it. And we'll turn it over. You can, and also they need to know that these things can be iron dry. You don't have to wait for them to dry.
Okay.
So normally I don't have time to wait, so I iron it dry, and then it will be a little stiffer, and I trim as close as I can, and that's why you never see the little whiskers.
Those little whiskers. Well,
scallop.
Philip, thank you so much. And next I have a beautiful doll dress for you. Have you ever wanted to make your own lace? Well, it's easy. Let me share with you a beautiful doll dress with lace made on the sewing machine. This little collar is absolutely every bit made on the sewing machine, the decorative stitches and the little scalloped edge. Come on down and see the decorative trim on the dress. This looks like lace to me. And this is a really neat trick. The lace, now this is the antique French lace. It is stitched down to the dress using this beautiful decorative stitch and this beautiful decorative stitch. Here is another decorative stitch used to hem the dress, and then some more of this beautiful lace made on netting. Now it's very easy to do all of these techniques. Let me share with you how. First of all, when you hem up the skirt, I folded a hem up on this beautiful burgundy silk dupioni, and I simply machine stitched across the hem line, and voila, my hem is finished. Now, let's make that lace on the sewing machine. I start out with 2 layers of water-soluble stabilizer, and I have a piece of netting in between there. So I put one piece of the netting down, another piece, and I have a Teflon-coated press sheet that I'm going to put on the top, and I also wrap it around on the bottom. Then I use a dry iron, not a steam iron, set on a reasonably high setting, and I'll press and press, and then the water-soluble stabilizer will be attached to the netting. This piece shows just exactly that. See, it's all just one piece now. If you want to, before you make your fancy netting, you can draw a line that you can follow as you stitch. Now here is a piece that I already have stitched. I have my scallops on the bottom. After you make them, you simply cut them out. Remember, Philip talked to us about scallops a few minutes ago. And then here is my decorative stitching. Now I am using red thread so you can see better. I'm using two strands of thread because this is a 40 weight, so I have a bobbin and my spool of thread on here. I threaded it as 1 strand of thread and ran 2 strands of thread through the needle. And if you have a 30 weight thread, 1 strand will be enough. Now then, I'm going to use a built-in wide stitch in my sewing machine, which is going to make this wonderful stitch, and it's going to kind of go all over the place, but that's one of the fun. That's part of the fun of having one of these wonderful sewing machines that does the decorative stitching that goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And when I finish this stitching, I will have a beautiful piece of netting and this wonderful stitch, and it will look probably exactly like I purchased it for about $25 a yard. It will look like English netting. And I have already done my scallops over here on the edge. See there how pretty that stitching is? And it really does. When I wash away the water-soluble stabilizer, it will look exactly as if I have put really, oh, by the way, I won't use red thread on ecru netting. But if I use ecru thread, it will look exactly as if I really paid the big bucks for it. Here is another form of really lace making on the sewing machine. This time I've done it on a beautiful handkerchief linen. The collar of this little dress that we're featuring in this series has the most beautiful embroidery on it, and it makes it look like lace. Do you see these beautiful scallops that Philip showed you how to do just a few minutes ago? And you know, you learned his trick on how to make perfect scallops every time. I have wing needlework in there, and I really want to hold the little skirt open so you can see the decorative stitching goes down the skirt on this pretty yellow handkerchief linen, and it is used to embellish going around the bottom of the skirt also. And here's a neat trick. Once again, the skirt was folded up the hem and it was stitched on top, and then you don't have to put a hem in this dress. Let me show you that trick first. All right, here is the skirt. You draw your lines off first. These are my decorative stitching lines, and these are my decorative stitching lines. Now, I have folded up the hem on this linen. I have folded up the hem in the back, and the hem extends a little way beyond this line, okay? Next, it's time for me to do my decorative stitching. Up and down the lines, across the lines, and here is the stitching, which indeed does also hem the skirt. Now then, the collar has all of that beautiful decorative stitching on it. I trace off the collar on the linen, and actually I do all of my decorative stitching, as you can see down here on this side. I do all of my decorative stitching on this collar, including the scallop. Do it just like Philip showed you, cording it and using the fabric stabilizer behind it before you cut, and then I will trim it away, and that is how easy it is to make that beautiful embroidered collar. And next I have a really cute craft for you. This beautiful flower arrangement is wonderful above a doorway or above your bed, or actually anywhere you want to put it. This is made with all kinds of goodies. It has dried flowers, silk flowers, a little crocheted piece with ribbons. Here is some antique lace tied into a bow and another crocheted piece. It's really very easy to make. First of all, you start with some leaves. Now, let me turn this over so you can see. You start with some leaves, some silk leaves that you buy at the craft store or the discount store, and wrap it with the green florist wire to make a little hanger. This also has some moss, and what you do, you can either use, since we have a lot of white, I use the white floral tape in here. You can begin to tape things together and just begin to add pieces. Now, we've used like this old crochet doily stuffed with a little bit of batting, and then tie it up, and maybe even put a little, put your little flower in the middle, your little silk flower in the middle. Here is the bow tied with antique lace. Here are little pieces of dried baby's breath and other flowers. You get the idea. You just tape it together and end up with a really pretty Victorian-looking floral piece. Won't you join me in my attic? Thank you for joining me in my attic. I have a beautiful Ayrshire embroidery christening dress to share with you today. This dress, by the way, was purchased out in the Seattle, Washington area. It has the little scoop neck, very traditional around the 1880s, and the little short sleeve, really precious double sleeve, a little ruffle rather, not a double sleeve, a little ruffle that comes over two little ruffles, and the little short sleeve. This Ayrshire embroidery is done all by hand, not only on the yoke of the dress, but let me open the skirt. Let's come down this skirt. Also on the skirt. Now I'm going to bring this skirt up and show you the very bottom because it is so magnificent. The Ayrshire embroidery goes all the way down to the bottom of the skirt with its little leaves and the eyelets and the little wagon wheels that are so absolutely precious. I can't even imagine how long it must have taken someone to have embroidered this dress. I'll tell you what, I certainly do enjoy it, even though I don't believe I would have the patience to do it. For our Sewing from the Heart segment today, I have a letter for you from Mary Ann Griffin of Troy, Illinois. Mary Ann writes, Dear Martha, I am writing to you regarding a volunteer service project which I was recently asked to do by my former colleagues at St. Louis University Hospital. Each spring, St. Louis University Hospital helps in sponsoring a candlelight march for Organ Donation Awareness Week. This year they asked for volunteers to submit squares for a quilt which was being made to help raise public awareness about the great need for organ donors in this country. I had recently taken my first heirloom sewing class in which I made a vest using the various heirloom techniques. My vest turned out beautifully. However, my shark's teeth were not up to my standard and therefore I didn't use them. Rather than just throw them away, I creatively used them as well as other scraps from my vest to make a quilt square for the organ donation quilt. The slogan, Do you have the heart to be a donor, was cleverly thought up by my husband. I have enclosed a photo for you to see the finished project. This is a most beautiful quilt square. I just love Mary Ann's shark's teeth that are all the way around the edge. They look perfectly wonderful to me, Mary Ann. Then she's used beading, and she's run a red ribbon through the beading and lace on the corners, and it says, Do you have the heart to be a donor? And look at her beautiful lace-shaped heart that she has shaped. And then she has what appears to be in this picture silk ribbon embroidery, which she has embroidered in the middle, and it has entredeaux. You know, Mary Ann, I bet your quilt square was one of the very most beautiful for the whole quilt. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today, and I'd like to invite you back next time.